Josh Dobbs finds a new home in Minnesota. Now, Jaren Hall will start for the Vikings. Obviously, Dobbs just arriving there now. Arizona trades him for a day 3 pick swap here. And Dobbs had some moments this year for Arizona. I know it hasn't been great lately, but as they look to Clayton Tune and get Kyler Murray ready to play again, they did right by Dobbs and got him to a place where he could eventually be a starter again.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the exciting thing is just having the rushing threat in the Kevin O'Connell offense, which we haven't really seen. I think this is good news for Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. It's good news for Justin Jefferson, who seems like he will be back soon. And I think the best thing here is that it just gives them another lottery ticket. Between Dobbs, between Jaren Hall, between Nick Mullins when he comes off IR, now they have 3 chances at a competent quarterback. But Connor, I'm really interested in your thoughts on Jaren Hall, who will start this week as Dobbs is coming in too late. What are you expecting from him?
I love that he brought up the rushing threat in this offense because that's something he could do a little bit, right? He's somebody that can be a scrambler and turn that scrambling into actual running. Not a huge arm, but a guy that can get out of the pocket, extend plays.
You're talking about Hall.
Pretty confident. Jaren Hall, yes. This is all about Jaren Hall. Really interesting background. Gets to BYU. He's a center fielder for their baseball team. He's one of those guys that's at BYU forever and then ends up being the quarterback after Zach Wilson. Has some massive statistical years in that BYU offense. So, once again, a little bit limited from an arm perspective, but a good athlete, and that's something that Minnesota didn't have under center. So, in fantasy, can he be some kind of rushing threat while throwing to capable passing targets?
And that's the thing. It's, again, like, we've got no idea. People thought Anthony Richardson was way too raw when he came into the NFL, and obviously, like, that was a guy that was a top 5 fantasy quarterback until he went down, right? People thought, the Niners are dead because they've got Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, coming in last year. He obviously was fantastic. We've got no idea. Jaren Hall might be great. There's a reason, like, everyone was like, Tyson Bagent.
Yeah,
undrafted free agent. Oh boy, now the Bears are gonna, like, whatever. He's been competent enough to keep DJ Moore somewhat afloat. And again, Jaren Hall won this job out of camp, and he is their backup for a reason. I know Mullins is hurt, and so it's not ideal. But so Hall might be great. But back to Dobbs for a second. I think the jury will be out on still whether or not you want to pick up Jaren Hall. I don't mind picking him up in a deep 2 quarterback league or whatever, just sort of as a lottery ticket. I don't think you're starting him this week unless you desperately have to. But I think for what we care about, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, I think he should be decent enough. The matchup is decent enough that I'm going to still, if you would normally start him, you'll still start him. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Hawkinson's too talented, and that offense is too focused for you not to be starting Hawkinson. We're going to talk about Addison coming up a little bit later in the show. As for Josh Dobbs, we talked about this yesterday on the show. Like, hey, I hope they trade him. I wonder if they do trade him because, they said he was going to start, and then the next thing you know, they're like, it might be Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray. And I tweeted out, this was on Monday, when they walked back that, I was just like, I wonder if he's getting traded. And we talked about this yesterday on the show, saying, like, I hope he does for the players' sake.
Right.
He's not part of the future in Arizona. He's shown that he's earned a role in the NFL. He should. And so now he goes to Minnesota. I think it's great news for Josh Dobbs. If you've been rostering Josh Dobbs, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I think you've got to be thrilled because Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, and soon Justin Jefferson are better skill players around him than what he had in Arizona. And then Josh Dobbs legitimately has, talent with his legs, right? I mean, we've seen him get like 40 rushing yards, a game. And so we'll see. He's not going to start this week, but I think this is good news for Dobbs, and I think it's good news for the whole Vikings. You referenced this as well. I think Justin Jefferson was on the fence. Maybe he's not rushing back for Jaren Hall, but he should come back now as soon as he's eligible to and able to with Dobbs. Keep in mind, when Kirk Cousins went down, he was the 7th best quarterback in fantasy on a points-per-game basis. So this is a fantasy-friendly offense that Josh Dobbs is, we think, in theory, going to get the keys to sooner rather than later. But again, if Jaren Hall balls out, who knows?
Let's take a look at the notable injuries we're tracking going into the week, led by Kenny Pickett dealing with the rib injury, Daniel Jones with the neck injury as much as he's been cleared for contact, Matthew Stafford with the sprained thumb, Desmond Ridder, Drake London, his teammate, with the groin injury, Darren Waller with the hamstring. That one sounds a little bit more serious, but back to the top from Kenny Pickett. We got to hear from him on his availability going into the week with that rib injury.
Kenny, is you playing Thursday conducive to how you feel, or are there clearances you need from doctors, or is it a bit of both?
No, I'm playing for sure.
Is there anything other than rest you can do to maybe move this along?
Some stuff, but with ribs, it's rest, and you don't have that luxury, so you got to do what you have to do to play.
You wear one of those jackets?
I always do.
So,
He's playing. It's going to be Kenny Pickett versus Will Levis on Thursday night. I don't think you necessarily want either guy, but I think you're excited about the potential for Deontay Johnson, for George Pickens. So I don't know that there's a huge difference between Pickett and Trubisky.
Trubisky hasn't looked great when he's coming in relief. I was
He
at
never has.
the same thought coming into the season. Like, oh, these guys are just the same guy. Pickett has more upside just because we know exactly what Mitch Trubisky is, and there's still, maybe we don't know what Kenny Pickett is, but I think we probably kind of know what Kenny Pickett is at this point.
Tell you what we don't know. We don't know much about Will Levis still, but after that 4-touchdown performance, it will be exciting to watch what Levis can do on the short week.
Super interested for your thoughts on Levis and what he did, Connor, because he, obviously the touchdowns were amazing. He threw these deep balls, but 29.4% success rate through the air. That's very low. It seemed like it was boom or bust, but the boom was incredible.
Right, the touchdowns aren't sustainable in that regard. Yeah. They had him do what he's comfortable with, and that is rolling and getting going and throwing the ball down the field, and a lot of it to DeAndre Hopkins, which good plan. They kept it really simple for Levis, so it's not sustainable in fantasy for the rest of this season, but at least they did what makes him comfortable. That's what you should do for young quarterbacks, especially developmental guys.
They gave him a simplified game plan, and he executed, which is all you're hoping for, right? I mean, again, and now he's going to be on a short week here. But I thought I saw some nice things. I saw some plays where he went through his progressions, and he had some nice touch on his passes as well. And I would say, again, for people that have invested in DeAndre Hopkins, again, he only had four targets. Let's not get crazy here. He still, he didn't play a ton of snaps. DeAndre Hopkins isn't back to being top 10 DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins is back being like, oh, I can use him. Whereas previous couple of weeks, you're like, this guy isn't even a top 30 fantasy wide receiver, and I think now he's back in that conversation. So a little bit of a fluky game, but still, I think Levis showed enough promise that you're excited about the future of the Titans offense.
It'll be a little tougher this week with that Pittsburgh front seven, 22 sacks for them this season. Atlanta is in the bottom 4 as far as sacks go, so it's nice when you could keep the opposing guys off your quarterback, and if you do that to mostly any quarterback, and you get DeAndre Hopkins streaking down the field with clothes on, you're gonna hit him for the touchdoon.
Yeah, so. No, listen. I mean, the offensive PI call. I mean, there was some stuff, but that last touchdown when that
happened, when DeAndre Hopkins about tackled AJ Terrell, I was like, all right, whatever. It ain't gonna keep happening. Then bomb. I'm like, damn, it's happening. Like, they torching these dudes. So, look, I'll say this about Jaren Hall. They get that same coverage, he definitely will hit them throws. Fact.
Yeah, exactly. Pittsburgh has been a middling defense so far this year, and they've disappointed, especially in the secondary. I wonder if they load the box, try to stopping Derrick Henry, and sort of dare Levis to beat them again.
We'll get
I'm
to
excited
Hopkins.
to see how he plays on Thursday night. The game got a lot more interesting. I will say this.
Yeah,
it feels
like
this is a
2.5 sacks with TJ Watt and a touchdown, doesn't it? It feels like
probably.
We'll talk
but I'm
more.
rooting for Will Levis. I'm a Will Levis stan. I'm on it. I'm on board with this. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.